Hey, I had some hiccups, but we're back. I tried recording this video like 4 times. I think it's finally working. So the last video was on like what is science, okay, which is this one here. And today I'd like to talk about what life science is, because that's what you're studying in seventh grade. Life science, you can think of life. So this is the study of living things, answering questions about living things, right? So if you kind of like should be able to move that out of the way and see that it's the study of everything. Sorry if that was in there. Yeah, study of everything alive, living things, and things that revolve around life, etc. Okay? So what you have to understand first before we get into the living things is you have to understand that we as scientists, we as people like to like put living things in little categories, one category here, one category there, etc. Like maybe you put all the silverware in one drawer and maybe you put like cans in another one and spices in it. We like to organize life, okay? Just like you may organize your kitchen. Okay. And we call that organization classification. We classify things. And the science of it's called taxonomy. So that's what this first unit is going to be about. Like, how do you organize life? How do we as scientists, um, put things into groups? Really, groups themselves aren't that interesting, but how we put them in can be. Okay. But this is how we classify life, how we put it there. Okay. Why do you need to know this, Mr. Joe? Why do I care? Well, we try and organize everything, and life is just one of those things. The organization of life is super messy. So in this lesson, I like to think about groups that you already know of. And then after we're all done, you should know that this is the way that all scientists around the globe kind of organize things and how we put things into groups. And it's done this way all over the globe. Although we should probably change it. Just going to say that. Okay. But it's a huge task because it's been done for a few hundred years. So there's probably better ways of organizing it than the way that we do right now. And if you want more information on that, there is a video linked to the module that you can watch. It's optional on the problems with, the way that we group things. And there are. Okay, it's not perfect for sure. Now, slide 6 here is going to be an activity I want you to do at the end. I'm going to have you put some stuff into some groups, and then there are strange things, and you put them in groups how you see fit. And then number 7 here is a Jamboard. I want you to put down some groups that you already know about before you get going for the rest of the lesson. Okay? So in the meantime, what we're going to do is focus on what is living and what is non-living. And I'm going to have you put that stuff into groups. So hold tight. Slide number 8, you have a group that is called living or biotic. Bio means life. And on the other side, the right-hand side, we have a category that says non-living or abiotic. And anytime you prefix a word with the letter A, it means not or non. This is not alive. So in a second here, I'm going to have you put these things in their different groups. You'll pause the video to do that, and then I'll cover it. So basically drag the picture up into a living or non-living category. Ready, set, go. Hit pause, do it yourself. Now you've unpaused it, welcome back. I'm going to group these things based on whether or not they're alive or not, and yours may be different, and that is okay, just leave it. It's not going to affect you in any way. The bear is alive. Like, it's a living thing. I don't know. Hopefully you guys got that one. The Rock. Dwayne Johnson's alive, but this one is not. That's just a rock. It's not alive. It's not a living thing. You might be like, Mr. Drew, I know a car's not alive either. Yep, put that one there. It's not alive. I agree with you. Chemicals, not alive. Okay, not alive. This pink thing is a coral, and that is a living thing. We'll talk about that. Sometimes I get confused on this one, the watermelon. Is that a living thing or not? I don't know. It's alive. Putting living stuff. The mushroom is alive. These blue Cheetos, they're bacteria. They are alive as well. And then this thing right here, you might be puzzled on what it is. It's actually a virus. And now that you know what that is, if you didn't know it before, you can pause it and put it into its category. If you've already put it in a category, welcome back. This is not a living thing. Despite how much news coverage viruses have gotten in the past, few months, it's not alive. So what makes a living thing a living thing? And you might be looking at these two groups and saying, the living stuff moves. And I'd be like, yeah. About that watermelon though, I never seen a watermelon vine like pick up its roots and walk towards a creek to get some water. It doesn't really happen. And I have seen an Aston Martin moving on a road. And you might be like, well, it can move on its own. Well, yeah, so can that. Yeah, I mean, like you could just stick it in a drive and let it go, and like the car will move on its own as long as it's like running. And watermelon won't do that. So like movement is not a requirement to be considered a living thing. Let me go get a living thing right now. I got one. I got a lot actually. Hold on one second. All right, I'm back, I think, and I'm back. And this is one of my living things right here. This is one of my little girls here. She's a white tree frog, and she's a living thing, and she does in fact move. Like no doubt about that. She's a moving girl, and you see her little throat bouncing up and down there as she's getting her breath. Okay, so what makes her alive and a car not? They both move. Well, the frog eats. Yep, she eats a lot. Their other name is a dumpy frog because they get kind of fat. She's about a year old, so she's not super fat yet. But yeah, she's pretty big for a tree frog. If you can't really tell, they're from Australia. Super cool frogs. Okay. Um, look, yeah, she does eat, and your car eats too. I call it eating gasoline. If you have a gas guzzler, it drinks a lot of gasoline to get its fuel and energy. But that's the key. I gave it away. They use energy. See, living things use energy, but so does a car. Living things use energy. Anyway, what we're going to do in the next few slides is figure out what it takes to be considered alive. Okay. And there are some certain requirements. Like if you found an alien doesn't meet these requirements, you don't know. I feel someone shouting at the video right now. Well, it eats to grow, Mr. Dro. It eats to grow. And I'm like, yeah. It uses energy to grow. This frog did not, come out of mama's egg this big. Like she has eaten a lot of bugs to get as big as she is. And, as much fuel as you put into your car, it doesn't start off like a little matchbox and then get, big enough for you to drive in. Okay. That Aston Martin is assembled by a factory and it's put together and it comes off the line. And the only thing it's probably going to do is grow if you put accessories on it or shrink if you crunch it. Right. So living things grow. It's definitely something that they do, including this frog. Okay. So why did I put the virus over here? I'll talk about that before we get to the other ones. Well, the virus is kind of neat. The virus is like a car. Okay. It's assembled in a factory, put together, made by the millions or thousands, and then it's set off into the world and it never grows. It never uses energy. It doesn't eat. Okay. It doesn't absorb energy from the sun like, this watermelon does, because the watermelon doesn't eat, but it does absorb energy from the sun. This thing does not. And it is assembled, put together, and never grows. It doesn't use energy either. So in a sense, it's kind of like a car, except it doesn't even have fuel and it doesn't move. It doesn't run on anything. Okay? It doesn't do any of that. What puts it together? Well, factories. I told you that. Factories in your body. You have factories in your body that make them. So if you get infected by a virus, you yourself make new viruses. You put all the parts together, you assemble them, and then you send them on their merry way to infect other people. Thank you very much. Wear a face mask. Okay? So these things are not considered alive, even though you've seen them in the news a lot, maybe. Okay? So slide 9 talks about what it takes to be alive. You can pull these things over and take a look at them and figure out what each one of these things stands for. We already talked about G. G is what this frog did from a baby till now. It grew. Okay? All these letters here in GREDCRAD, GREDCRAD, are requirements for be considered a living thing. And in order to be alive, you have to have all of these things. Okay? Like a rock, for instance, a rock does grow. A rock right here does grow, and you might say that's a stalactite or a stalagmite in a cave. And if you haven't seen a stalactite or a stalagmite, go ahead and look them up on the interweb. You have the Chromebook at your fingertips. That's a growing rock. But it doesn't move. It doesn't use energy. Not that movement is a requirement for life. It doesn't eat anything. Doesn't get energy from the sun. It's just there. Okay. So I'd like you to take a look at slide number 9, and after you've done all those, go ahead and go back to 7 and 6 and complete those two activities. Have a good rest of the day.